Good morning from here. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. If you read the blurb that comes out, that Jofi sends out, you'll see that I did live for 10 years on this remote island. It's called Palawan in the Philippines. And it was always my passion to go into the Peace Corps. And I finally did it at age 59. So I learned a lot, like how to take baths every day in cold water. There was no hot water, there was no washing machine, there were no dishwashers. I had a hot plate with a propane tank. We had snakes in the kitchen. We had lizards on the walls. And I loved it. It was my definition of paradise because I'm an animal freak and a nature freak. So I got that lived experience that they talked about, and it really changed my life. I love things, but I've not been a passionate advocate before. And I know that Cane Corps, we don't get to know each other very much, but Cane Corps actually has legal background, and she is involved in people who have to migrate as a result of climate change. So she's doing the work that most of us just talk about or think of, we're on the fringes of. It's an idea, it's our passion as a theory, but living in it is totally different. My passion is snorkeling and seeing marine life. And within 3 to 5 years, I watched my favorite reef die. I mean, when you live every day in it, you understand it in a really different way. So I will be representing us at COP27 in Egypt. And one of the things I want to know is what you want me to do, what you would like me, how shall I represent you? Who shall I connect with? What are your passions? So before we start, I would like Jofi to show you a brief video that it's like a minute, not even a minute and a half, that my good friend from 350 Bay Area sent me yesterday.
There's no sound.
Still no sound.
Don't really need it. Pictures are good.
Yeah, I'm sorry there was no sound on that, but I think you got the message that this is produced by WaterAid, but the message is that climate change is very real for women, and we're impacted the most, and we need to rise up and do something. Before we go into our groups, I wanted to just read this poem. I'm in a poetry group for, and the man is a devout climate person. But I think this one hit home for me. It's called Hold Your Breath, A Song of Climate Change by Bob Hickok. The water's rising, but we're not drowning yet. When we're drowning, we'll do something. When we're on our roofs, when we're deciding between saving the cute baby or the smart baby. When there aren't enough helicopters or news crews to circle over everyone. When sharks are in the streets. When people are dying. When people with wine cellars are dying. We'll build dams and dikes, put stilts on our V8s and our golf courses, cut down anyone who cuts down a tree, paint our Jesuses green. We'll grow wings. We'll go to the moon soon. And when I came back from the Philippines, that's kind of how I felt. Those of us in Western society are very shielded from climate change. We're horrified at what happened in Florida just last couple weeks, but we don't realize that that's been going on for decades in the Pacific Island countries. They're drowning now. They are having to leave their homes because they have no drinkable water. The sea levels have risen to the point that they can't live there. So their ancestral homes, their languages, their culture, everything, they're being shipped out. So Kingcorn knows about this better than I on the migration. But to me, we're way past that midnight hour. And Jofie's heard me say this before. My favorite movie is called Living in the Time of Dying. It's a 1-hour documentary. It's free on YouTube. And they say we need to extend the glide so that we make life most bearable for most species on Earth. And Doris Marlin, who is on the UUA Ministry for Earth, also says, we're way past that. Remember, they used to do that clock and say, we're 5 minutes away from midnight. We're 5 seconds away. She goes, no, we're way past midnight. And what are we going to do about it? So my questions to you is to just get in touch with nature and what makes you cry? What really hits your heart about climate change, about nature? What's your favorite place in the world in nature? Mine is the ocean. Mine is underneath the ocean. What really gets you? Why do you love it? And what worries you most about climate change? A lot of my friends have grandchildren and they're worried about that future. I'm more worried about species, other species than humans. But what is yours? What do you connect with? So we'll go into the breakout rooms. And the other thing I'd like you again is to tell me, what do you want me to concentrate on when I'm in Egypt? So we'll have what, 15 minutes, Jofie? Do we have that? 15 minutes. And then we'll come back. Please remember your group name, which I always forget. So please have someone remember your group name. And we'll come back and I'll be taking notes. And when we come back, I'll also put my email in the chat. I really want you, even after these groups, to contact me and tell me. So shall we go?
Thank you, Deb. I think, so I will open the rooms right now. So you have about 15, maybe a little more than 15 minutes in the breakout groups.
Back to recording. You can't record the breakout groups, unfortunately, but here we are back together again. We are going to hear the reports. How many groups were there, Jofie?
7 groups.
7. Okay. I will be calling by number, so remember your group number. Could the reporter for group 1 speak and make it brief?
So I was assigned to be the recorder since I'm the one collecting information was the rationale. So, We talked a lot about energy, the fires in California being caused by electrical wiring gone bad. But the profits and corporate greed override the safety issues. Melinda commented that she lives in a mountain area that used to see 4 seasons. She loves white Christmases and she no longer sees those. Now she said there are 2 seasons. People who, agriculture is a big part of that area of the world. And she said it's drying out and people are giving up their livestock because they can't feed them anymore. She also noted Prince William's Earthshot and his tenet that the next 10 years is a test for humanity to repair the earth, that humans can innovate and problem solve, and this is our 10 years of test. And Jackie was probably the most emotional, although I was crying as she was talking. She said she is profoundly disturbed, but as we get older, what can we as older people do that will change anything? Peg went back to talking about saving water. And my thing is we need a revolution. It's not going, we can't educate anymore. I'm tired of awareness. I'm tired of talking, and we need to do something. And my point was, we're a women's group, we're international. What can we agree on that we can do? So that's group 1.
Thanks, Deb. Who's the reporter for group 2?
I'm from group
Jeanine.
2. I'm from group 2.
Right.
That was Julie, Laura, Jeannie Lewis, Joy Ellen, and me. And we talked about various personal things that we could do or how we had changed life during the pandemic and so forth. But the main point that we wanted you to take, Deb, was that the idea of finding a group or large groups that we can affiliate with, because we were fairly in agreement that the small things we do are pittance compared to what companies are polluting and doing it, but we don't have very much power as individuals to vote on them. So we feel like we need to be part of a strong movement. Somebody talked about tying it to like the women's rights movement or something like that in the olden days, but that also if you could find a group that's geared towards women, a little bit like your video, but we talked about the way women are trafficked and other things that this climate is affecting them and their livelihoods. But we feel like we need to find a strong, visible partners that can make a big effect together. That's all from us.
Thank you, Javine. Group 3, that was my group. Lee? You're muted, Lee.
Okay, I do that all the time. Sylvie, Diana, Ellen, Barbara, and I were all in this group, and we all had concerns about pretty much all of the mess that's going on. But for example, Sylvie thought that it would be very important to save the trees. And there need to be other options besides cutting down the trees every time you need the fuel or to build homes. And that really needs to be explored. I was concerned with the way we treat the earth in our agriculture and the food choices and the way that organic gardening makes sense, and it could be more taught and practiced more widely, and people could make better choices at the food they eat so that the earth could be treated with respect. Big concern for the bees and a lot of things people just don't know about, if they're not interested in how we eat and how we learn. Diana was concerned about all of nature, but really made the point that we need to have different people in power, and we need to make better decisions. Ellen is a military vet and knows that our country has a huge carbon emissions due to all of the military related things that we do. But these are not reported, and there aren't being changes made to cut back on that. Barbara really thinks we need to support people getting access to clean water and air. We all believe that it's important to keep hope alive, because it is just, it can be crippling if you think of how serious things are now. So we need to find people who are inspirational, that will see the big picture. We all happen to think women might be doing a better job at this. So we need to vote, and we need to find ways to address this quickly and more efficiently, from the macro to the micro, from micro to the macro. That's it.
Thank you, Lee. Group 4.
If nobody is volunteering, that must be me. I didn't write it down what group we were. So this group was Barb, Kathy, Carol, Trish, and myself. And we talked about what makes us cry. And Barb personally misses the Michigan shore, that it's being eroded, and the historical buildings and cottages that are basically being washed away and disappearing on the land, and that the use of that property, which is really close to home, so you can see the effect. Kathy sees the news, the floods, the fires, the rising water, the coast, and is really concerned about the future, and not so much the future of the earth, which is going to find a way of healing itself, but the future of humanity, and how ponders about the interconnectedness of life. Carol says that the image of the polar bear, while she knows that that's just one mammal, but it's also basically an image for the biodiversity that we are losing. And she had a wonderful book to suggest that Bill Kibbins says that it would be a must to read, which is called Ministry of the Future by Kim Stanley Robinson. And it's a very, very difficult read when she's recommending that we would look into that book. Trish was only an observer. And for myself, I said the most painful thing for me in all of this is seeing people's reaction. How reluctant are many to accept what they are seeing. Those who do see what it is, how selfish the approach. If it doesn't affect me, then I really don't care. And I would really love to know more about how could we influence people to take this more seriously, and to how to have an impact. I even taken training at that, but I don't know how. But I promise to, I believe to Carol, that I will participate in writing.
Wonderful. Thank you. Group 5, please.
So that would be me. Noelle is from Kenya, and she was talking about her favorite place is the Kenyan coast. She loves the ocean. And what makes her cry is in Africa, young women and girls. One of the reasons they're so affected is that water is hard to come by, drinking water. And so they have to walk sometimes 15 to 20 miles to get their water. And because of that, the girls can't go to school anymore. Their time is being taken up with the walking, just surviving. Also, the water levels in the ocean are so high that people have had to move inland, and that has destroyed communities and they've lost their cultures and their livelihoods. Vicky is from the Pacific Northwest, and she loves the mountains and forests in Puget Sound. And she's very concerned about the trees burning. She says now there's so much smoke in the air that you can't go outside to exercise. And she stresses that climate change is real and that we have to do drastic things. We have to, as somebody was saying, we're beyond just educating. We have to start doing, and we have to look at all solutions and cooperate with many groups. It has gone to a conference, an NGO CSW 66 conference that is about Africa and what's happening in Africa. And she is very concerned about that. And she asked the questions, what is nature? Are we talking about our own backyard, or, and what is the environment, and what is the environment in the home, your psychological environment? What is the climate? What is the climate at home and outside? And she says she has too many favorite places to name, and thinks we need to set realistic goals. I am from Michigan, and my favorite places are the national parks and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which is so beautiful. And that brings me to my biggest concern, and that is there's a pipeline running under Lake Michigan through the Straits of Mackinac, it's a terrible place to have a pipeline. And it comes from Canada and it runs through there. And if it ruptures, our Great Lakes will be ruined. And there's such a natural beauty. And there's a fight in Michigan right now over that. Our governor has told them to shut down. It's called Enbridge Energy, and they've been told to shut down, and they have refused. And that's something I would like taken to the conference. So that's it.
Thank you, Kathy.
Number 5.
Group 6.
I was the recorder on that. We had Susan, Ruth, Darlene, Christine, and myself. And so one of the things we talked about was the destruction going on in the world, such as the destruction of trees and the forest fires in California, places going underwater, the Amazon rainforest, and the impact on people like the indigenous people in Brazil who are being displaced, and the issue and the connection with the climate change and the impact on people, and the people most affected. We talked about that. The people most affected are the poor, and that also led to a discussion of the economy and income inequality, that's all connected with the climate issue. And everyone also raised the concern about the future generations, because of they're worried about future generations. And Christine's 5-year-old son was with us in our discussion, so we had a clear example there of youth. The other thing was that in raising awareness of climate change, there needs to be more emphasis on solutions and positive steps, and to put the focus on that and encourage that more, because doom and gloom doesn't motivate people. So I think in the climate discussion, the climate debate, there needs to be more emphasis on the solutions, things that are working, things that we can do, things that because we all ask the question, what can we do? I think in the communications on climate change, there needs to be more emphasis on the solutions and what we can do.
Thank you, Beth. Group 7.
I was taking notes, and we had Audrey from Alberta, which is oil country. We had Carrie Kaur from India, and she's done work on climate change and migration. And then Dana of Paris, formerly of Florida, and she talked about being in touch with her friends in Florida after the current catastrophes there. We talked about a little bit about what we love, the beach, the mountains, being out in nature, and sort of being very disturbed by the abrupt changes in the weather and the seasons, being able, that it's also visible and undeniable, I guess, at this point. We talked a bit about how governments have been very slow to build policies which can make a difference. On the other hand, Dana was saying how in the event, for example, of COVID, how quickly government acted in France to change, behavior across the board. And that suggests, that action could be taken at that level. She also had a quote from her husband when they were talking earlier, and he said something like, not enough people are motivated by the common good. And that led to a discussion a little bit about how fossil fuel companies and the whole capitalist system, which is pushing for continued fossil fuel consumption, is driving a lot, but it's also manipulating democracy. And we see that, again, whether you're in Europe or the States, it's very evident that. So I don't know how you make a revolution exactly, but it would have to be very fundamental economic changes where we are really shifting out of fossil fuels. And Kerko brought up the issue about developing countries are already suffering very much, and that's already been discussed earlier. And that it's imperative to build capacity building in countries that don't have the technology available to other countries. But really, it has to be a sea change in what intergovernments can do. Individually, we can't do very much other than push for policy changes. So that's sort of where we were.
Thank you, Marilyn. And that is all 7 groups, right? Any other group?
There were 7 groups.
Very good. Just wanted to make sure. Thanks, Shofi. Want to thank you all so very much. This has been a really powerful session. I hope we gave Deb a lot of good thoughts about what to speak up about when she's in Sharm el-Sheikh. And we send her off with our love and our best wishes for strong advocacy for us and for the earth. Thank you, Deb.
I
And
just
there's
put
Deb's
in my
email.
email to, if you have any thoughts, that's my email. Please, really, I loved Marilyn's wrap up. That's what I believe. I don't think our little efforts are going to matter. And I read yesterday something CNN put out that only 9% of all the plastic we recycle is really recycled. It was very much a bummer for me, because most of us try really hard, but like Marilyn said, our individual efforts will not change. And like Kathy said, that pipeline, wow. And it will just destroy Minnesota, Michigan, those beautiful lakes. So yeah, lots of work to do. Please if you think of what IWC can do as an entity, I agree, linking with a stronger organization. That's my plan. So I will be doing that, but please give me your thoughts. Thanks so much for everything.
Thank you, Deb. We look forward to hearing how it went. We hope to hear good news, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. And I need to say that if you enjoyed or appreciated, it's not necessarily so enjoyable to talk about such bad news, but what we can do and what we all love, those are enjoyable and wonderful. If you appreciated this meeting and you're not already an IWC member, we hope you can join. Of course, we need financial support to keep going, so we would appreciate that if you're able. It really has been a joy being with all of you this morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are. Please send your feedback, drop an email anytime, and suggest future topics. Please send them to Jofi. She is our wonderful organizer, and we so much appreciate her work. Our next gathering will be on October 25th, which is the 4th Tuesday of October, 2 weeks from today. We hope you can be with us then. And until next time, please stay safe, take care of yourselves, take care of your families. I will now blow out the chalice. Thank you all.